हो तू है गीत मेरा चाह से निरालो मन मीत मेरा मिल जाए इस तरह तू लहरे जिस तरह हो मिल जाए इस तरह.
Your Trauma Talks, an incredible new series that brings live conversations with individuals who share your resilience and understand your story. Join us as we dive deep into the realm of mental health, exposing the truth behind the challenges these remarkable individuals have faced. Discover how you have overcome adversity as these incredible souls take the stage in New York City, sharing their inspiring stories with everyone. Experience the power of Your Trauma Talks on Trauma Talks Thursdays, live as we bring you face to face with individuals who have triumphed over their trauma and come out stronger on the other side. Hear their raw and honest accounts of their struggles and how they have found healing and hope in the midst of pain. Don't miss out on this rare opportunity to connect with those who truly understand what you are going through. Join us for an unforgettable evening every Thursday of sharing, support, and solidarity as we come together to break the stigma surrounding mental health. Experience the magic of Your Trauma Talks live in New York City, where compassion and courage converge to create a space of healing and empowerment. It's time to speak up, listen, and learn from those who have walked a similar path.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wow, wow, wow. You know, we say this all the time, to give yourself a pat on the back from bringing yourself from last week or yesterday to today. And if I tell you that my journey from last Thursday to this Thursday was not one that you could click your fingers and end up being right here where I am today. No, it was a challenge. It was a challenge where I could have stayed in certain places, just curl up in my bed, cry, or do something drastic. At Your Trauma Talks conference, live on Broadway in New York City, one of my amazing friends, Dr. Cecilia Hawkins, spoke about your trauma, your mental health, meaning the ones that she got. Only she could have handled it. Just like I am telling you, there are people out there that I know what's going on with them. And I say to myself all the time, God, thank God for not giving them what you have given to me, because I know what they can handle. And let me tell you, you are really built to pull your own weight. You are really built to understand yourself, your needs and your wants. And when you could understand that for your own self, you will be able to help yourself. Right now, we have so many challenges and additional challenges. If you do not believe in yourself, if you do not love yourself enough, you might not be able to drag yourself out of that mud, my friends. As I say every week, my rasters. So my message to you today is you have to keep believing in yourself, because no one else can do it for you. No one else can help you get off the ground when you fall, because even if someone is pulling you up or holding you and dragging you up, if you do not want to get up, you would not get up. So I am telling you, you have to rise up every single time you fall, and remember the dark times where you were and how you overcome it, whether it was betrayal. Don't matter how emotionally stressed, how mentally, emotionally, physically, you have to be able to do it for yourself. And then don't forget the ones that you love and love you to give you that extra push. Good night to everyone. Welcome to episode 37 on Trauma Talk Thursdays. Wow. Beautiful. I couldn't have done this without all my rasters and the support we get week after week. And I want to say thank you. And I want to bring up my amazing co-host, Brittany Purr, right now, because I'm telling you this. Taking your time off to do this week after week, it takes a lot out of you because it just is not an hour. You have to be prepared before and after. And she takes her time off to come out here to speak about trauma and mental health. Brittany Purr, thank you so much. Hello and welcome.
Hello, hello. I am grateful to be here, Ra. Thank you for doing this every week and for being committed in creating a live stage experience where people can meet us face to face. And hopefully, some of you will join us to share your stories as well with the upcoming conference coming up next year. So stay tuned for that. And yeah.
Yay. So I'm excited for our guests tonight, Brett. And also you want to share a little bit. I know I like when you talk a little bit for your 5 minutes. So it's 9:06 right now. So I'll give you until 12 and come back and you take the stage. Tell them about how your week was. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Actually, I'm going to just piggyback on what you've shared and just from a little bit of a different perspective. So, when it comes to the situations that life throws at us, how do you respond to it? And that's what matters. I've said this a couple times now, but I'm going to say it again. Choice is our superpower. What you choose to do from what has happened is a superpower. That choice point is that point where the possibilities are limitless and endless, and you can take it in different directions. But that choice is pivotal to where you go and where you end up. One thing that I do is I kind of trace back my choices through unraveling what transpired and why certain things have happened to me. And instead of just kind of, hanging out in the space of like, this sucks, yada, 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 it's the processing. And that processing brings healing because the more that I'm aware of my choices of what got me to this space, the more I have the ability to make choices now to get myself out of it. So, for example, if I make choices from a space of desperation, that's going to bring lack into my life because it's desperation. It's not really thought out. It's not something that I am very mindful of. It's something that I just kind of do and leave it up to the universe to figure it out. And that never works very well. So when things or when the world around me seems to be in chaos, I get still and I look at where I'm at now. And it's like a lot of that chaos is, either things that I need to handle now in this immediate space, or they're things that haven't really transpired yet. And so I'm at that choice point where I can make the choices that get me through it. And we all have the ability to use this superpower. And it's part of being human that we get to make these choices and be very clear and direct on where these choices lead us or leave us. Because there are consequences, and consequences don't necessarily have to be bad. They can be good things. But when you make that choice, you can choose to be empowered. You can choose to be disempowered. You can choose to just languish in victimhood, or you can choose to rise above it all and use what you've learned along the way. And what I really want to share in this space is I want to see you all through joining us on this journey that is ever going and growing to really see the possibilities and to begin to rise above it all and use what you've learned from here, from others, from our shares on this stage, that these things are learnings that you can benefit from and grow in your life. So I believe I'm at time. Maral, you can come on down.
I was like listening to you boiling down, just coming down nicely. Yeah, everything you said, it connects all together. As Dr. Robertson spoke today about synchronicity and how everything just coincidentally occurs in a way that it has to be something to do with spirituality. Like last year, she tell her stories in different ways, and she spoke about a snake so coincidentally too that last year I dreamt my dog Ace protecting me from a gold and white snake and a gold and red snake, two snakes, and I knew who they were in the dream. And I woke up because he went to battle them. He made me stay away, went and battled them, and came back bleeding. So while I was feeling sorry, now he passed away last January, and I call him my celestial being. And I also say to people, tons of people that I help all come through Ace's life, and Ace met them. Some people actually held on to Ace and cried their problems, and he helped them. And when I say this, it's because of what happened in the dream. And it's so coincidental that right after I woke up, I know that trouble was coming or what was coming. And boom, it did happen. There she comes, and she speak about it today in a similar manner, that this snake that she dreamt was talking, listening to her. And she went to work the next day, and the person who was betraying her was wearing the same colors of the snake. And it's just so coincident that how it is that people actually, just as today, Dr. Hawkins was speaking to me and telling me about a dream, about someone she was thinking about, and boom, she get a phone call, and it happens. You know what I mean? So everything connects in a way, not just because. No, there's a meaning to everything, and you have to put that meaning into your life in a positive way. I advise someone today in my own way after listening to them. The negative thoughts that hits you, especially where I'm coming from with this, because this person said a little negative thought, a little one, a little negative thought, but it's not a little negative thought. That negative thought, just like putting two fruits together, one that's decaying and rotting, and it touches the other one becomes infected, even if it was good. The same thing with a negative thought in your mind. One little negative thought can spread and spread and become bigger and bigger. So here's what you do with that negative thought, because most of the times you can overcome it. Think about you having a little surgery in your own head, but just think about the equipment and just clip it like a little tweezer. You're seeing it, imagining when you're pulling it. It's like a hair string, but that's coming out from inside of your mind. And you pull it until it comes out, no matter how long it seems to come out in your imagination, in your head. Pull it until it comes out and throw it aside and let that negative thought go. As I used to say when I started Your Life Experiences with Ra, dust negativity away. Yes. So you dust the negative thoughts away and let the positivity come in. I have another story, but let's introduce our amazing guest, because we have stories that help to make you to understand you are not alone and you can do it too. So Brittany Purr, please.
All right. So our special guest for tonight is Leslie Liu, widely recognized as the Warrior. She is a global speaker. They are a global speaker, humanitarian, and pioneering women's self-defense expert, committed to empowering women and marginalized communities. As a founder of Reclaiming Your Courage and co-founder of the Warrior Queens Rise movement, Leslie's mission is to equip women with the tools, confidence, and resilience to combat gender based violence and reclaim their voices. Her work, rooted in the core values of love, courage, and community, are both transformative and life saving. Welcome, Leslie, to the stage.
Woo! Hello, Leslie.
Woo! Goosebumps. Oh my goodness. I've been like back here listening to you two. And I just want to say it's such an honor to be here. Thank you for creating this beautiful space. And I know I don't know you both, but like I really just kind of felt your heart over the last 15 minutes. So thank you for that and allowing me to go deeper into a story that could potentially save someone's life.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of your Trauma Talks Thursdays. And, like I say this all the time, I work the numbers. So 37 adds up to 10 in my way, 3 and 7, and that is the 1 in the front there. So I know your story coming up here is an ace, because to do what you do, you heard, I saw you when you said you come up and you said you got chills, right? That's you. She just read about you. She was talking about you. Give yourself that pat on the back every day and remember that is you. And that's amazing, because I'm sure the story you're about to tell, it's going to be deep. So thank you again for coming. Brittany Pearl, I'll leave her to you, and you guys have a...
All right. So before we dive in, I just want you to share a little bit about some of your prestigious honors that I've heard a little bit about. You've been recognized in certain ways through the work that you've done. Share a little bit about that before going into your story.
Oh, well, I mean, I was awarded the Asian Woman Trailblazer Award back in, I don't even know what year we're in anymore. Maybe a couple of years back. I most recently was awarded a Global Humanitarian Award recently in a service project that we did in Kenya. And that was actually more meaningful than some of the accolades. I know that I was one of the global women to watch in 2024 and in the Washington DC Post. But this most recent award for Warrior Queens Rise, we basically spent 10 days in Kenya and reached over 21,000 young people.
Wow.
Right. And so we also devoted a lot of time to help rebuild a widow's home. So literally mud, hands, and heart, donating school supplies to young people, and really identifying a need around period poverty. So instead of just throwing money at the problem or giving these young girls sanitary pads, because the taxation in Kenya is so high, we actually partnered up with a company called Ruby Cups, which are reusable silicone cups. And so we were able to donate well over 500 silicone cups that would give these girls a 10-year lifeline. And so the local community and diplomats and local leaders in the county awarded my business partner and I and many of others who were in the group a humanitarian award.
Wow. That is amazing. Oh my gosh. Wow. I love that. Like, I'm just so blown away by the work that you've done. And now let's get into your story of what brought you here to this space of really claiming your power and supporting others along the way.
Yeah. I am loyal to a fault, and it nearly cost me my life. So let's travel back. August 2001. I'm 19 years old. I hear screams down the hallway of the apartment building. My best friend at the time was in an incredibly abusive relationship with an older man. Some context here is, up until that point, I had been a martial artist my entire life. So I had just finished getting my first black belt and was well on my way in achieving my second black belt. So in a lot of ways, I felt like I trained for this moment because I knew the cycle of violence, the verbal abuse, the bruises, the telltale signs, things that are textbook that you read about. And I am that protective friend. I'm someone that loved so deeply, someone who I deemed as a sister. And so in my martial artist brain, I thought, this is it. This is the moment that I am going to shine. I've been training for this, right? And it didn't end up that way for me, you guys. It was a very difficult lesson in demystifying some of these myths that we have. And what I mean by that is, I think that with self-defense and women, there is this perception that we are fearless and Wonder Woman, and we love the movies, right? But things didn't end up for me this way. I basically, with all my might, all of my force, all of the things I had learned, things that you see in the movie, I tried every which way to win, to beat this man so that I could protect and save my friend. And so in my head, this was going to go really, really well. And it actually turned out to be the opposite. And with every strike, with every kick, I missed. And I was met with 3 times the blows in terms of force and strength. And the dark part about this is that he made my friend watch the entire thing. And what this battle and this fight led to was a concussion and a broken rib and me bloodied on the floor. It also led to me being in a hospital bed for several days. And I remember lying there on the floor saying to myself, this is it. This is where I'm going to die, and I'm going to die alone. And you don't know how much you cherish life until it literally someone overpowers you and can take it away, literally having their hands wrapped around your throat. And so I suppressed that story for nearly 20 years. And I'm here today to talk about it because when we talk about stigma around mental health, we don't talk about the forgotten. And there are so many women that are in situations all over the world that they experience the same physical, emotional abuse, and they don't live to tell the story. I am fortunate enough to be a person who's able to be here today and tell it. And what I want to share with you tonight is the lessons that I take away from it. And part of this healing process and this healing journey has been the anger and the rage and the resentment and the deep sadness and loneliness I felt being abandoned and left. And to also have feelings of, well, why didn't she help me? And now that I am older and doing the work that I'm doing, I know there's no possible way that she was in a position of fear. She was in a position of being overpowered. And so I share that because someone with my background as a martial artist was taught to be excellent, right? That every technique, that everything that's all I needed to know, was how to use this. And in my traditional self-defense training, we hear all the things, right? Get the pepper spray, get your keys in between your fists, kick them in the nuts. I try all of those things. And I'm here to tell you that we need to evolve the way that we teach women and how we empower women, because it's not just this. And when I teach in a very trauma-informed way today, I don't ever throw women into a situation of just teaching physical technique, because women just want to learn the stuff. I just want to learn the stuff. But what I want to open our eyes to is that usually there's these stories and all of the traumas and the ways in which we've been victimized. And it messes with our mindset, and it messes with our ability to advocate for ourselves, to honor and vocalize our boundaries. And so going back to the lesson of this story is that I was conditioned and I was bred, right? Young athlete training for the Taekwondo Olympics, right? Overachiever, thinking I've got this, because that's what society had taught me to believe, that I'm fearless. And what I learned really quickly is an important lesson, is that, ladies, we never go toe-to-toe with men. Self-defense is your ability to identify that you are enough and that you are worth fighting for, number one. Because where I went wrong is I tried to look outside of myself. Empowerment starts when you realize that no one is coming to save you. Right? So I expected her to step in, which is really messed up when I think about it. But as I work with clients today, people who are victims of gender-based violence, we see the same pattern of, you know what, I'm not even that hurt with the physical aspect of this. The pain that is deeper for me is that nobody helped me. The person on the street, me being attacked in the daylight, me being attacked on the subway. And I think that in my work, it's important to relay to women that we have to start tapping into that inner warrior, that ancestral strength that we have. And that's a lesson I didn't know at the time. I thought if I just knew the stuff and I just defined myself as strong, of just doing and that I would beat him. And that's the other lesson I take away from this, is that I went into it trying to beat him, trying to win. But true self-defense is doing enough to escape the situation so that you can get home to your loved ones. And it was a really, really hard lesson for me to learn, of, you know what, I've been watching too much movies. Really, that's what it is. And so when we think about psychological safety today, and when we think about keeping our community safe, I think that we need to start having these conversations, right? We need to start talking about what are the voices in our heads, what are the stories. Because as I teach my workshops and as I teach the things, I notice that there are always a handful of women in a classroom, if I'm teaching a self-defense workshop, that think in a very traditional way, which is like, you go to the McDojo, you go to the strip mall, you learn the stuff, right? Cobra Kai never dies. But the issue with that is when we just focus on physical prowess, we are just in a fighter mentality, in kind of like a caged animal. And so the reason why I share my story with you today is to have an expansive view, that part of being a warrior is that you recognizing your self-worth. So if I would have had that level of like, I love myself wholly and completely, and I deserve respect and safety. If those are words that I could have gone back and taught myself, then I would have played out the scenario completely differently. And it's something that keeps me up at night and has kept me up at night. of how could I have won the fight? How couldn't I have done the thing? And now, as I focus on the wounds, I focus on a very important word that a close friend of mine helped me identify, which is to surrender. And there is beauty and strength in vulnerability. And so instead of me having so much anger for so long and trying to throw myself into the physical aspect of this, to really just surrender and understand that that was a battle I never was going to win. But is there a different strategy, and is there a different mindset and a warrior mindset I could have had to have a better outcome? Definitely. And that is the difference between a fighter and a warrior. A fighter wants to win, right? Wants to show off, right? All that talent. But being a warrior is living to fight another day because you have a greater purpose beyond yourself. And so my message today is that you are worth fighting for, and that you should not attach your value to someone else or put your life in someone else's hands. So if we think that community or our partner or someone else is going to come save us, that's actually disempowering. We have to be able to kind of go within ourselves to tap into that strength, to stand in our power. And a lot of times it doesn't even have to do about physical defense in return. Sometimes it's really honing into your heart and your mind and being aware and speaking up and vocalizing and creating a boundary. And that energetically would be the thing to protect you, is what I'm really trying to introduce here. So thank you so much for allowing me to share my story.
Wow, deep. Wow. Very deep. You have touched on so many things in so many different ways. Like, okay, so like, the reason I got a little distracted, I was looking for a little video of someone I interviewed in Paris. Her name is Simone O'Brien. While you guys have a little chat, I will get that video and just show 3 minutes of that interview, the first minute, and then there's a minute. I just don't want to say the wrong details, but she was beaten with a baseball bat in her face, and she was left for dead by her narcissist boyfriend at that time. Her children witnessed that, the trauma, the different things that would have happened. You have to listen to her story. So I just had an idea to bring her on the show because she is amazing. She already gave her interview, but it would be nice to have her live on as well. When I say what is meant for you shall never pass you by, and what passes you by was not meant for you, it's very strong and deep. You have to sit down and dissect it. It doesn't mean to say that the beautiful earrings that Britt is wearing today is that she really wanted those and it was meant for her. No, the life that you have, the things that comes with it, the stress, the trauma, the mental places that it puts you into. As I said earlier on, you got to drag yourself out of the dirt. But at the end of the day, do not drag the extra traumas. You got to let that go. Like the anchor, you got to let that go. Leslie, hats off to you, and give yourself a pat on the back. I knew it. I said it. And thank you for being who you are and standing up. And don't talk about the work you did in Kenya and stuff. That's amazing, mind-blowing for all that you do. Hey, I call motivational speakers my angels. And guess what? You have proven to me that you have some extra set of wings on the back there. God bless you and thank you for what you do. Brittany, you can ask her a quick question. And before I really want to get that video. Plus, I have a speaker video to just break the ice a little bit. So I'll be right back. You guys have a small talk.
All right. So one of the statements you said really like hit me to the core. And I was like, yes, this is so it. Empowerment starts when we realize no one's coming to save you. And that has been a big theme that I've been sharing for the past couple of weeks, not as succinctly as you put it, but Can you unpack that a little bit more and how people can start down that path to empowerment?
Yeah, I'll give you a clear example of how I developed that statement. There was a client of mine who she lived in a nice condo building, right? And she, during the pandemic, ordered her Uber Eats. And when she went downstairs to retrieve her order, she essentially got followed into an elevator and assaulted. And the whole thing it was jarring for her because she never thought something like that could happen to her. But it wasn't the PTSD-ness of that situation happening to her. It was the fact that it was daylight, that the doorman was right there, and that she's like, I even screamed help, right? And what's interesting is she thought she was more disappointed and devastated with that than the actual physical attack. And the reason why I mention that is this is where we have to make a complete mind shift, like mindset shift. Because when we think that people are going to do the right thing, that they're going to speak up for us, that they are going to physically protect us, that's where I feel like the conversation has to start. And so I start off with what I say is, well, empowerment starts the moment you realize that no one's coming to save you. How does that land for you? Right? And then there's stages of grief that happen with that question. Right? I displaced my anger. I was blaming my friend. She was the victim, right? Like this is a systematic problem. Like I'm blaming others. I felt betrayed in the process. But we cannot abandon ourselves. Somehow in my story, I placed more value on her than my own life. That was the other lesson that I learned in this. Not that I love her any less, but why was I not putting that same energy and heart into like, how could I navigate this situation in a way where we both will walk away? Right? And so, in the context here, I think it's understanding that we do have an expectation. I think that's the first level of unpacking is that, I have anger, I have resentment because I didn't get the outcome I was expecting. So let's go to the root of what were you expecting? You were expecting for the solution to be outside of yourself when really it's inside of yourself.
Wow. So amazing. You read some of the comments and there it was so like this is good. Everyone is picking up on something. She said it's too short. I thought so the same. I thought it was too short as well. Tamara Patrick says she learned something new. Rita is still bringing out that word warrior. We usually think about fighting, but you have taught us something new, and that is so true. It's deep. That's so true. This is so awesome. Thank you so much. We'll come back to the little messages. I have a little video call for speakers. Everyone knows May is Mental Health Wellness Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are having another conference, and we are looking for 24 speakers to have a 2-day event, the 7th and 8th of May 2025. We have an early bird registration, and trust me, Brittany Purr is right here tonight as witness to this. She was part of it. She was a keynote speaker. She had her picture in a booklet. She was in the New York Wall Street Times. She was part of an article in Women's Journal. She was part of a press release in the New York Daily, the New York Wire. Listen, be part of our conference. It's the only conference, and I can boldly say this, it's the only conference that you will speak in a theater, on a stage, and get every single thing we are promising and beyond. To top it off, she was on a billboard, as you will see in this amazing video.
Amazing speakers. I have an important question for you. Are you ready to share your story this May during Mental Health Awareness Month? Will you be joining us in New York City
in-person mental health conferences called Your Trauma Talks. Let me be clear. No other conference offers what we provide. I have experienced the struggles firsthand, and I understand the frustration many speakers face when they invest their savings into conferences that don't deliver. I want to change that narrative. I know what it feels like to be misled in this coaching and speaking world, and I refuse to let that happen to you. Yes, I teach people to speak out on my platform, Your Life Experiences with Ra. I am no longer taking insults after paying thousands of dollars and now expected to stay quiet. Your Trauma Talks is here to give you a trustworthy platform where you can share your journey and walk away feeling empowered. We are different, but you will also have a robust portfolio that reflects your story and the dark challenges you have overcome. Let us help you to shine a light on your past dark experiences and transform them into a powerful message for others in your shoes. Ra knows who you are because Ra is just like you. Together we can break the chains of mental health stigmas. I promise you, you won't regret taking this opportunity. Keep an open mind, and I assure you, you will leave with a smile knowing your worth, refusing to let your past dark experiences define you. Remember, this is Ra. Ra believes in you. Ra loves you. So come on, let's make a difference together. All you need to do is click that link right now and register and just have a smooth ride with Your Trauma Talks.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Your Life Experiences with Ra. It's Ra, and today I'm here with an amazing, and when I say amazing, I know everyone always say, what's wrong with his vocabulary? Doesn't he have a better word than amazing? Amazing suits it all, because this soul I'm sitting with here is a domestic violence survivor, and we have heard stories on Your Life Experiences with Ra, but what you're about to hear is something that's breathtaking, and it's really heart-wrenching. I'm really sorry that Simone, this is Simone O'Brien. Simone, it's nice meeting you.
Thank you for having me on today.
No. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being able to struggle that you went through and you fought through. Thank you for doing it and being here so you'll be able to spread your message. So I want you to introduce yourself to everyone, and we'll go from there.
Hi everyone, I'm Simone O'Brien.
We begin tonight with a story of courage and survival. Simone O'Brien is lucky to be alive, the victim of a brutal attack by a man she'd trusted who tried to murder her with a baseball bat. She is bravely telling her story for the first time in the hope of saving other women.
My life and my family's lives have changed. Having to look at myself in the mirror each day, seeing myself is scary and makes me frustrated. I cry all the time now, can't get out of bed some days. It just seems endless.
24 hours was all it took for Simone O'Brien's peaceful world to intersect with a monster. Trying her luck at online dating, the mother of three met this man, real estate agent Glenn Cable. Months later, without warning, he viciously attacked her with a baseball bat and left her for dead.
All right, like that interview was so intense for me. Like I actually had to tell her, like, you know, when I tell people how I connect and I put myself in their shoes to actually understand and connect with them, not compare, but I would put it in this way. We were saved because I would see things like that, not in that way, not that Simone had to go through, but it happened with my mom in different ways. And it could have been my mom. It could have been in worse situations. And I tell God thanks for the blessings, that the protection that was always there. So if you have to hear Simone O'Brien's story, She goes around the world telling her story. Amazing, amazing soul. So here's what I'm going to try my best. She's very popular, especially in Australia and stuff like that, on that entire globe. She's been on CBS and all these different news stations as well. So I'm going to try my best and see if we could get her on Trauma Talk Thursdays, and or even self. We have Therapeutic Thursdays now, and we have, this is amazing, and here it comes. From next Thursday, all who is looking on, I want you to look out for a new podcast starting next Thursday. Dr. Robertson will say, Ra, how can we get on to the younger generation and let them speak out about their traumas and mental health stress that they're going through? Over the weekend, Ra went to a fashion show. Now, this is something that I'm new to. Been in the fashion industry, videographer, photographer, creating videos. I actually put together a fashion show called High Fashion back in 2012. I model at New York City Couture Fashion Week. So here's this. Here's how it comes in. Trauma behind the glamour. Every Thursday, starting next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look out for it, share it. It's a new podcast. We have Therapeutic Thursdays. We have Trauma Talk Thursdays. And now we are having Trauma Behind the Glamour. I'm putting together a trailer. By tomorrow, it's going to be out there. You all look out for it on your life experiences with Ra, on your Trauma Talk, your Trauma Talks. It's all over. Rahul K. Maharaj, Brittany Purr is out there. Y'all, anything you Google about us, we're all over. So look out for that new podcast. So let's try and get Simone O'Brien. Once again, Leslie, thank you so much for what you do. And I really, really, really would like to ask you a question when it comes to domestic violence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you teach people, you have overcome, you have healed. And we say we heal about every single day, as Brittany and I was talking about it, just like we spoke about Dr. Robertson. She spoke about this a few Thursdays ago as well. We continue to heal because what happened yesterday, we have to heal from it. Or what happened, and when I say yesterday, it could be a year ago. It could be within the last few weeks. And you have to, no matter what you do in your journey, you have to stumble upon the similar stories or people that have gone through what you have gone through or worse. At that time, that moment, how do you hold it together? Now, this is not teaching. This is the raw thing because it happens to me. It just happened to me the moment with Simone O'Brien. But it's that I'm healed and I'm not going to be stuck there. I'm not going to freeze. It's a trigger, but in a good way that, okay, it's a reminder kind of trigger for me. I'm just telling you how I get through some of my triggers. But with this happens, and I know it happens to the best of us. So you tell me, at that time it's happening, how do you let go and just breathe and keep going forward?
Well, you just answered part of it. So actually the week leading up to coming here, even though I might think that I'm healed or healing, I remember that healing is not a linear process and it's not a linear journey. And what I mean by that is, as I was thinking about this story, which I've not publicly stated in 20 plus years, is that my rib cage started hurting, right? And that is a reminder that trauma lives in the body. And so I was feeling a lot of physical symptoms, and usually the fighter in me would resist it and be like, nope, you got to be strong. You got to be strong. Culturally, that's how I grew up. Don't show that weakness, right? And so one of the things that helped me visually was to think of my ribcage as a bamboo jungle and to just go back to surrendering and letting myself feel it, letting myself breathe, resting. Soaking in the tub, to not resist. And that goes back to the moral of my story, is that there was so much young fighter me was resisting trying to fight someone who was clearly 150 pounds larger than me, had more muscle in my body, right? And so it's the art of fighting without fighting. I don't fight with aggression. The sensations I feel in my body when it comes to trauma is I don't push it out. I let myself cry. If I was going to cry tonight, which I could feel that, I just let myself feel that. And it has taken decades of healing. And that's how I know that I'm there. And I look at it as it's not a destination, it's constant and it's iterative.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you for that explanation. So I'm looking across at some of the comments. See how people are. I think this is Kebachet. Kavachet from last week. She told us this. She's Midnight Queen. Thank you so much for joining in this week. Thank you so much. And your story is amazing. Again, like I had to message Leslie today and ask her to tell me a little bit about what she's speaking about, because last week you really hit us hard with that story. You know, like it was deep. Thank you for being who you are and that strong individual you are. Then we had Jenny. Sometimes you do not always heal completely. And the mind, I agree. And here she is. There we go. Hello, my love. Thank you for joining us tonight as well. So I'll leave Brittany Pearl with you, and you all have a little chat, and then I'll come back on.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who's like tuning in. And I think that it's what my mind goes to is thinking about like a different definition of what you deem as strong. And what has been modeled to you as strong. And again, Brett, I wanted to acknowledge you both for having this platform, because one might say, well, how did that story end? And was justice served? And I think about Simone's story and I'm like, well, was justice served? And what I want to share with everyone on this platform is that there are so many people all over the world in that situation, and you think it's very clear cut that that person's going to end up in jail or get what's due to them. And a lot of the time that's not the case. A lot of the time the perpetrators are allowed to go.
Yep. So how would you guide someone through that expectation that justice is going to be served?
I think that it's really understanding that things are at a systematic level. Right? We just came out a very difficult couple of weeks, right? Like everybody has uncertainty of the world and whatnot, but there are powers that be, and there are imbalances, and there are so many women that get hurt that in these situations. And what I really want to say is we have to shy away from victim blaming, right? The language around, well, what did she do to bring that on? What, you're dumb. Why did you fight a guy? Right? Or what did your friend do to deserve that? And this is why having these conversations today is so important. Oh, well, she wore this, or she must have done something. And that's the culture. And that's what I'm trying to really break generationally here, is having these hard conversations.
Yep. Which is good. Like that is the first step to creating significant change. And, the scenario about the system, well acquainted with that. But, just as in your story, how from that moment you evolved to be able to be here today to share your story, but not in a way that, has people, pity you or pour sympathy towards you. You become that warrior because of the lesson learned and because of taking that forward. So what would you say is the difference between, remaining a victim or, even victim blaming yourself in that state and instead choosing to rise and move forward and empower others and rise others up out of those spaces of, that internal conflict that arises, obviously, because of these scenarios that you brought up?
That's a great question. And I think that it starts especially when I work with victims,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes really being able to remind people what gaslighting is, whether that's gaslighting from your abusive partner, whether it's gaslighting from friends and community about like, well, why if you get hit, then why do you stay? I think someone's commenting about that right now.
Mhm.
Um, Being able to recognize that there is also self-gaslighting. And so by definition, gaslighting is when someone makes you question your own reality, that's gaslighting. And so when I work with people at a basic level, the first question I ask is, whose voice are you hearing right now?
Hmm.
And that question alone, it will tell you a lot, because my goal as the coach is not to tell people what to feel or whatnot. It's how do you hold space and save space for people to be able to understand, okay, well, how much of that was you, or how much of that was your upbringing? How much of that is societal expectation? How much of that is the manipulation that you were experiencing at the time? So it's a fine balance of, I recognize that I'm not going to make a woman feel bad for taking 3 years to leave her abusive partner,
Mhm.
right? So it's not placing judgment on someone, because that's their reality. That if the reality is, you had to build up the courage to leave, like, I honor that. I honor you where you are, or even the people that I know that still have their sneakers under their bed and can't leave.
Yeah. And part of that challenging aspect is getting things in place to leave safely because, for me personally, within my situation, I had to kind of invert the manipulation and being like, all right, well, the best way to get out of this is to make him want to leave me pretty much, as crappy as that sounds. But, it comes back to that whole expectations thing because it still wasn't easy. It was still very traumatic with divorce and that sort of thing. So, um, how would you support someone in those steps of creating that safety net to get out of those situations? Or is that something that you leave it up to them to kind of figure out those windows of opportunities themselves?
Oh, no, I deep dive with women. I mean, I actually help them strategize. So part of the work I do is, how do you develop a game plan for when shit hits the fan, right? And part of that is also education for them.
Mhm.
Some women have not been taught about financial independence from their abusive partner. So being able to make suggestions of like, how do you safely create an account that he's not aware of? Ha I mean, being able to meet women where they're at. And so it's like, okay, well, uh, don't check your email on the laptop at home. I've had to advise women to go to public spaces, create different. I mean, the level and the detail. And so creating the strategy and the plan is not the difficult part. It's the, how many touch points, how many times do we have to support and show care for them to leave. But also, I've worked with women who've transitioned to nonprofits and places with their children, thinking that, and recognizing that victims go back, and that's okay too. And that, what I was saying earlier about not victim blaming, is like, okay, well, they have been manipulated to the point where they can't even find work. So they had to survive. And so that's part of the stigma I want to break today, is like, to stop going off on the victims. We're not unpacking and thinking about the men and the power struggle and the power dynamic. We're blaming the women. And that's what I'm here to really fight for and say, like, no, this is wrong. And it's like trauma. So whether that woman is in the process of leaving or she has left and she's come back, maybe she has to do that 2 or 3 more times. It's me saying I'm still here for you 2 years later.
That's amazing. And that's definitely what so many in those situations need. People need, like, that confidant to be by their side no matter what, to not get frustrated at them, but to, support them as they navigate the path, their own healing, their own awakening out of the situation and out of the manipulations. And it's definitely a huge undertaking. And it takes a lot from anyone who chooses to support someone on that journey. So I appreciate you. You are 100% the real deal, where I'm like, yep, you touched on that. Yep, you touched on that. And you went there. And yes. So,
and I'll go every which way, because part of my mantra and what Reclaiming Your Courage is you're worth fighting for.
Mhm.
And so I have it on my forearm. It's what
nice.
I constantly remind my clients. It's constantly what I remind the women who are in the situations, that they're not forgotten, that they're not abandoned. And when they are ready to make conscious choices, I'm there, because they are worth it. And somewhere along the line, we lose that and we are drowning. And sometimes it just takes for someone to remind you that you are.
Mhm. Beautiful and well put. I love that phrase. Thank you so
Well,
much.
I love how you put everything, because even the parts where you put a plan in place for some women to actually get the education they need, understand that they can be financially independent and stuff. I tell this in my talk all the time. My mother took 20 years to get out of her situation. It's not that she wasn't looking. It's not that she wasn't, trying. She did. She ran away all the way to the United States, and still the person followed her here. You can't, I learned this thing, and I teach people. Jenny, her brother taught me this. May his soul rest in peace. When your hand is in the lion's mouth, the lion is smart. He knows that you're going to run away as soon, so he can grab you at any second. But if you remain calm and you try your best and you gain the trust of that lion, you pet that lion nicely, you can take your hand out slowly and easily. And he taught me that. In 2002, my mom was sick. He came and he took care of her for me. It was a miracle. Doctors couldn't save her. She was dying. And let me tell you that he taught me that since 2002. And I remember that throughout. Every time I'm in a situation, and you have all that stuff going on in your mind, all crazy, and you hear the lion roaring in your head, you calm down, and the lion is going to calm down too. And you'll start seeing things very clearly. So yes, it does take time to get out of sticky situations. The people who just get out of it already have been planning it. So when you say, oh, she did that, yeah, I can do it too. No, it's tough. Some people, it might happen to be easy, but some it's not.
It's also tough because in the analogy of the lion and the abuser, there is the evolution of the abuser. And what I mean by that is there's not one means of attack. And an example I can think of is when I started working with clients during the pandemic. People don't believe me when I say this. I was like, I literally have women who are victimized. And nowadays, men use technology. Aside from financial manipulation, men use technology. And so an example of that is that the men would be outside of the house and control the temperature of the home using their Nest app to either freeze the woman and the children or to overheat them to force them to go to the hospital to make them sick and see, you'll get COVID. You need me. And this is the nuance that I tell people. It's very complex, right? And whether those people have immigrated from this country, and don't have a means of being able to get resources, that's a whole other level of complexity. So stop freaking victim blaming. It's how can we support people, right? Especially these women that have kids and cannot leave because of kids.
And you know what's sad? What's sad is, and I said it a few weeks ago when Dr. Robertson was on the show, and she's an 80-year-old woman. 80 years ago, well, let's say 43 years ago, 33 years, I will calculate it. She's older than me. And I went through those things. She went through those things. People 10 years younger than us been through those things. And what's sad is the new generation have its own version of it in a different way, because the problem stems from the roots and it's just not changing. No matter how much they learn, there's certain people evolve out of it, and their mindsets, they want to change that. Like, I did not want to be like the abuser. I wanted to make sure that I learned that that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that to someone else's child. But there are some people out there, like my brother. He always recognized this. Like, I saw what my father did. I saw what how he was an alcoholic and this, and I never wanted that. He always say this to me in my face, and that's my brother. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, people can actually change their mindset by not wanting to be like that. But there's some people just trickle down the generations, just see them flowing like a mountain, just up and down hill, because it all ends up in the same peak. It all end up with the same type of abuse in some way or the other. So Leslie Liu, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Make sure you put your information. They're asking how can we contact you, Lou. Thank you, Leslie. They're saying here, it's not always physical. Sometimes it's verbally. That's 100% true. Physical, mental, and emotional abuse is sad. Donna is all the way from the Philippines. She was like, I think she just became your biggest fan on here. Donna, thank you so much for joining in. And then we have, this is your information. Thank you. If anybody wants to contact Leslie, please do so. So I'll leave it up to you, Brittany. You and Leslie can have a small little talk and close it off. Thank you all. Join us next week for 3 different new podcasts all together. Trauma Behind the Glamour. Trauma Behind the Glamour at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Thursday. Then we have Therapeutic Thursdays, episode 3 with Dr. Robertson, and she already started talking about Thanksgiving. Her message today at the end was, at Thanksgiving, a lot of mental and traumas happen because people tend to dig into the past of others, bring unnecessary talks up, and it ruins your Thanksgiving. So I think she's going to speak a little bit in depth about that. So look out for that. And we will have another amazing guest next week with Brittany Purr and myself. See you all next week. This is Ra. I love you all. Brittany, the stage is yours.
Yep. And Leslie, hang out for a little bit. So that's your website. And I don't know, Ra, if you can bring that back up, her website or her email address. Thank you. So that's the best way for people to contact you. And can they go through your website as well to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my email address because I love talking to people. I'm a talker, but also my website is reclaimingyourcourage.com. So that is the easiest way. And if anything that I said tonight really struck a chord with you, like, I'd love to hear what's on your mind and your heart about it, because being someone who experienced this, like, throughout my life, there was not enough spaces for me to even talk about it. Right? It's like, we don't talk about that, especially in an Asian American household. And I think what really birthed my passion and my company really was the start of the pandemic and the rise in anti-Asian hate crimes.
Yep. I remember hearing about that and being very concerned about friends. And it's frustrating that those things, these paradigms happen and continue to happen. But I know that the work that you are doing definitely helps people out of that paradigm, because when it comes down to it, it's their trauma and their fear that they're letting take hold of their lives to, you know, feel entitled to be able to attack others. And the more that you do your work, the more that that is going to shift in the world to where people don't carry around the guilt and the shame and perpetuate the violence that they've been privy to, but begin to heal and escape and find a way out of these situations and begin to love themselves and embrace themselves. So thank you for doing the work and doing the real work, which is being there by someone's side as they are navigating these situations, the ups, the downs, the questioning, the lack of self-trust, all of those situations and more. So thank you for doing what you're doing and for making the tough decisions to stick with it, to be non-judgmental, to stand in that space, because so many people want to force people into that little pigeonhole of like what shoulda, woulda, coulda, or how it shoulding all over it be. So, share a little bit about your journey navigating all of that stuff, and then we'll wrap it up with one more thing.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for those words. Thank you just for hearing me and seeing me. And the best way I navigated this stuff was to really recognize that there was a certain way I was being presented with things. So we're using self-defense in this model, right? Martial arts. That just because I just want people to know that there is another way, that this trauma-informed holistic approach to self-defense exists, that I exist, right? That I'm here to disrupt some stuff, right? And I think that a huge kind of shifting point for my work was really understanding the intersection between how we identify really does intersect with the way that potential attackers perceive us. So I'll leave it with that without going into like deeper, but you know, I think in a lot of spaces we don't really make time, especially in a women's self-defense class or what. We just focus on the stuffs, the fists and the kicks. And I'm like, we have to understand what's behind the kick and the fist, and being able to ask people how you identify, what do you fight for, who do you fight for, is such a key element that I think that I want communities to understand as we're thinking about building safety and respect within ourselves and for other people, is to ask questions like that.
Those are definitely loaded questions, which it's just something that came up was like those who deal with CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, like you're addressing that. And I think that is so pivotal for people, because if you're going into a fight and you have CPTSD and you freeze, everything you've practiced and learned just are out the window. And what are you left with? So I really acknowledge and admire that you do go deep with people, that you do address these situations so people have the best chance possible in getting out of these situations and protecting themselves. So with that, what is one last powerful statement that you want to share with our audience?
That you are the non-negotiable in any given situation.
Boom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And can people find you on social media as well?
Yeah, on Facebook, Leslie Liu, just as it's spelled here. Come find me. I'm kind of crazy a little bit on my reels and my videos, but I like it. And then on Instagram, Reclaiming Your Courage, one word. So please follow me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. And hang out after.